Do you feel unsteady when you walk or stand still? If so, you're not alone. But I want you to know that there's a lot that we can do to improve our balance even as we age. Today, we'll use simple movements based on neuroplasticity to help your brain and your body work better together. Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm a physical therapist, but if it's been a while since you've exercised, be sure to check with your healthcare provider before starting any new program. So we don't need a lot of fancy equipment today, but I do want you to have a sturdy chair nearby and a countertop to help you with your balance. The other thing I'm going to use to help me with my exercises today is a small paper cup. If you don't have a paper cup, you can use anything that you can just tap on gently. Even a small step stool will work just fine. So the first thing we're going to do is do a march with a pause. Now I've got the chair right next to me in case I need it, and I'm just going to lift up one foot, hold for a moment, and alternate left and right. And with these today, I'm going to go for about a minute. And the reason I like this, especially with the pause, because it does make you shift your weight from right to left. And eventually this will help you with your single limb balance if you're having trouble with that. And the longer you pause, the more unsteady you might feel with this. The second exercise we're going to do is a heel raise. So I'm going to turn sideways so you can see a little bit better. And what I want to do when I do this one is I'm just going to pause again at the top of the motion. So I'm going up on my toes, pausing for a moment, and coming back down. This is going to work the calf muscles to make them a little bit stronger. And it's also going to get those muscles that work sort of like a brake when we lose our balance to work a little bit better. You can see that I'm going straight up into the air and with control as I come back down. And I've just got my hands hovering over the chair, depending on how you feel, holding it up just for a few seconds at the top. The longer you go, the more you'll feel that burning in the calf muscles, but that's okay. It's working those muscles. And because I'm feeling a little bit of tightness in those calf muscles, I'm going to just pause for a moment and do a simple stretch. I'm just holding here for a little bit of support. The front knee is bent, my back knee is straight, and I just am pressing my heel down to feel a nice little stretch right in my calf muscle. And that's going to relieve some of that tightness I'm feeling. Now, you don't have to stop and do this calf stretch. But for me, it just feels really good after I do that motion. So that's what I'm doing. Now, the next exercise I'm going to do is side steps. So I'm just going to take a step to the right and a step back to the left. Now, the chair is within easy reach. If you've got a little bit of trouble with your balance, you can face a counter and put your hands right on top of the counter. But I want you to be able to see me. So I'm just standing here just like this. If you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can always cross your arms. I'm trying to be careful not to hit my microphone because that'll just disrupt the sound and nobody likes poor sound quality. So we're going to go for about a minute. I'm taking a big step. And when I do this, I'm making sure that I'm not dragging my foot across the ground or the floor, and I'm keeping my knees soft. We don't want our knees locked out like this because that actually makes your balance a little bit worse. And you don't have to have your arms crossed. That's just an option if you feel like it needs to be a little bit more difficult for you. And if you're getting tired with these, if your balance is really challenged, you can go ahead and take a break, get a drink of water, rest up, and we'll keep on going. So the next exercise we're going to do is a retro walk or a backwards walk. I've got my chair right in front of me for a little bit of support. I also have my counter next to me. And so I'm just going to take a few steps back. And when I get to the end, I'm going to turn around and come back. Now, depending on your balance, turning around might cause you to be a little imbalanced. So if you need to hold on as you're turning around, that's okay. And you just want to be very careful as you're doing these. And I've got my counter here just in case. I'm working in a small space. So if you're in a small space, just make sure you don't run into anything. There we go. If you find this type of content helpful, please like and subscribe and share it with someone you know. Now, the next exercise we're going to do is tandem walk. So I'm just going to walk heel toe with one foot directly in front of the other. And when I get to the end, I'll just turn around and go back. Again, the chair is there. I've got my counter right next to me in case I need it. And I'm just walking with one foot directly in front of the other. And then we're going to turn around and come back. And the reason we're taking about a minute on each of these exercises, because we're working with the neuroplasticity. That just means that your brain can make changes over time, and it takes a little bit of time for your brain and your body to work together. So as you focus on doing each of these exercises, you might find that it becomes easier and easier as we go. And you might even decide that you could go ahead and cross your arms and walk that way with one foot directly in front of the other. So let's do one more lap. We'll stick with the arms crossed if we can. And back. So the next exercise is tapping my foot on the paper cup. Now, if you don't have a paper cup, like I said before, you could use a small stool. Anything that you have, even like a small target on the ground, will work perfectly fine for this. And so I've got my target on the ground. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly tap left and right. And I like this because it causes me to shift my weight from one foot to the other foot. And a lot of the people that I work with throughout the day, weight shifting is hard, especially if you've had an injury or maybe you've had a stroke. Getting your weight onto the affected limb can be quite a challenge. And if you need to make it a little bit more challenging, you can always cross your arms. But if that's too difficult, you can bring your arms out to the side or just hold the counter. Now, the next exercise I'm going to do is going to activate the vestibular system as well as the balance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand in a partial tandem stance. Now, when you're standing in full tandem, you've got one foot directly in front of the other. Today, what I'm doing is I've got my feet slightly offset and just a little bit overlapped. But what I'm going to do is as I'm doing this, I'm going to look up and down, trying to maintain my balance as I'm going. And you don't have to look up all the way. You just want to look up maybe 45 degrees or so and back down. Sometimes what I like to do is put a target on the wall. So maybe put a letter B on the wall, like on a sticky note, like right in the center of your eyesight, and then keep your eyes focused on the letter as you're looking up and down. The only tricky thing is if you do use bifocals, you want to make sure that you stay in one lens. You don't want to go from your reading lens to your distance lens because that can throw you off. And so for those, we want to work both sides. So I've now got my right foot in front. And this time I'm going to look left and right, maybe about 45 degrees as we're going. And this is a little bit challenging for me, but I'm going to go ahead and cross my arms and continue. Now, if this is a little bit too hard for you, you can always put your arms out to the side or hold the chair lightly. but we're just going to continue on a little bit longer here. And the last exercise I'm going to do is I'm going to stand with my feet close together, and I'm going to lift the ball to about shoulder height and come on down. Now, if you don't have a weighted ball, that's okay. You could just take a small weight in your hand, and even just the small weight can challenge your balance sometimes. And I'm just going nice and slow, lifting the ball up. And these type of exercises, because they are for your balance, these are something that you could do every day. And I think if you have a real balance challenge, doing them daily would be the most beneficial for you. It would be about 10 minutes worth of exercise for you, maybe a little bit less, depending on how much you rest in between each exercise. If when you're doing these, your form starts to fail and you get a little unsteady, that means it's time to rest and then restart after you're feeling refreshed. Well, that's all of the exercises I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, you might also like this video here.